Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. This is a series on Karaniya Metta Sutta, the practice of universal love, and today's is the fourth in the series. In the last discourse, we mentioned that Metta Sutta is divided into three distinct ways of practice. Metta means universal love. That has to be practiced first of all in the form of Shila, a virtuous conduct, a moral conduct, and then as Samadhi, as a meditative practice, and then as Panya, something that enables one to penetrate into the reality of everything. Panya means intuitive wisdom. Wisdom is different from knowledge. It is capable of penetrating into the very heart of a thing, and you know what a thing really is, not what it appears to be. Knowledge can always mislead, but wisdom never. So metta to be practiced as sila, to develop virtue, and samadhi to develop meditative concentration and thereby higher consciousness, and panya, intuitive wisdom, and thereby earning freedom from the shackles of samsaric existence. Now in these three modes, metta has to be practiced, and in the previous discourses we have given you the historical background, etc. We don't need to repeat them. Now these three modes will have to be understood very clearly. Last time we mentioned as a sila, there are 15 distinct ways of Shila has to be practiced. They are actually virtuous conduct or virtues. Now I mentioned for the first 5, one being the ability to handle life or every affairs of life in a very competent and able manner. That means metta as a skillful application of everything. The skill by which one can manage the affairs of life very competently and thereby giving trouble to nobody and helping everybody. After all, the philosophy of metta or universal love is to promote the well-being and happiness of all. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. May all beings be happy. That is the underlying philosophy of metta, of universal love. So whatever we do, say or think, the way we behave, the way we conduct ourselves from morning till night, everything has to be done in such a way that it promotes this philosophy of universal love, where you say, may this lead to the happiness of all. The definition of metta in Pali is very clear. It is said, Mata yatha niyam puttang ayusa eka puttam anurakhe. Just as a mother protects and shields a child, her only child, from any danger, anurakshanam, protecting from any danger and promoting the well-being of the child in even at the cost of her own life. So this mother's attitude, matruno bhava and mitrasya bhava, the attitude of a bosom friend. He will give his life for you. He will promote your well-being under all circumstances. He will shield you from every danger. That is the nature of a bosom friend. So, mitrasya bhava matruno bhava iti metta. Metta is this. That is the approach of metta, and that is why it is called universal love. And when that is the basic philosophy underlying everything that you do, say or think, then one has to have just one thing, one has to cultivate very assiduously and very sincerely, one quality, and that is the quality of appamada, meaning heedfulness, diligence, mindfulness. If we do everything, whatever we do or say or think mindfully, and also knowing why we are doing this and with what attitude we are doing or saying or thinking, well, there everything is turned into metta, a means for promoting universal love. So if you are competent, which simply means that you are competent not only in handling your own personal affairs, but in doing everything. In every sphere of life, you apply this principle, you being very competent so that you can be of some service to the world, to everybody. Similarly, being very upright, very straightforward and honest. These are all qualities of metta. These are all the qualities by which one can practice metta as a sila, as a virtuous conduct. So, sakko, ujucha, sujucha, subacho. Now, subacho means a very friendly and kindly way of speaking, gentle way of speaking and so on, as distinct from being very tough and harsh. No. So when one cultivates these qualities consciously and deliberately, one is practicing metta as a sila, as a conduct. And this conduct becomes a sila sampatti. That is, something which is an asset, something which protects, something which brings all the blessings of life. Sampatti. Now, sila sampatti, as an asset, if we really go deeply into it, the various conduct, the virtuous conduct that we have just discussed, being gentle and being upright and all that sort of thing, being competent and all that. Now, behind you have this philosophy of universal love. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitattama. May all beings be happy by this. So, this conduct is a sampatti because it generates great spiritual merit and it decides our destiny now and hereafter, both in this world as well as in future world. How does it do that? Now, sila is a determining factor for one's future, present and future destiny. So that is how it is. Just because it determines your destiny, it becomes a source of asset. That is, you create your destiny by your own conduct. You don't depend upon any external source, whether God or Guru or religion or whatever. No external source to decide and determine your future or even the present life, the destiny of your life. You are the creator, the captain of your destiny, only when your actions become sampatti, sila sampatti, a virtuous conduct which is also a great spiritual asset, something which gives value to your existence, something which makes your life precious, meaningful. So you attract not only wealth in terms of sampatti, in a wealth or money or any, properties and things like that. No. Everything that makes life meaningful and that enriches life. Good name, good fame, good reputation, if people can depend upon you and you become a very dependable friend, a dependable person, that's a great resource. That's a great sampatti. And if you become an undependable person, telling lies, being crooked and not straight, being cunning, very intelligent but cunning, now nobody can depend upon such a person. So when you practice metta, you give up all these give up all these distortions in one's character and life. So intelligence is good, it is very necessary. But if it turns into a cunning action, a craftiness, there it becomes vipatti. Just the opposite of asset. It's a liability. So, now knowledge and intelligence, very good. But if you are using your knowledge and intelligence to create a war, to arrogate yourself with all kinds of powers and think that you are the super something, super this, super that, well, your knowledge and your intelligence is a vipatti, is a distinct liability, a source of danger and difficulties ahead. Now mankind never learns from history, I am afraid. That's why history repeats itself. In my own lifetime I have seen so many wars. I thought the Second World War will be the end of all wars. That is how they boasted anyway. Now, immediately after the second, you are having continuous wars of all kinds, so much of destructivity and so much of hate, so much of inhuman ways of behavior. Now all this is because even the so-called sampatti, knowledge is a sampatti. Knowledge is something to be cherished because it enriches life. It empowers the mind. Intelligence empowers the mind. Yet this can be a source of downfall when it is misused. And what is it that turns an otherwise an asset, a spiritual asset, into a spiritual liability? Once we understand that, then the practice of metta in the form of virtuous conduct gives great meaning to everything that you do, say or think. One has to deeply understand and appreciate. Now, there is only one thing that turns an otherwise sampatti into a vipatti, a liability. I will give you the case of Henry Ford. I think many of you know it. He was the richest man in the world. He could not count his money. All his dollar notes, he couldn't count them. So he had to weigh them as you weigh a pound of rice or some such thing. He had to weigh all his notes and determine what is the value of all that. Not by counting so many notes of 10 or 20 or 100, but so many pounds. That is how he determined his money. This man with such wealth and such an affluent, powerful man, he could not eat even one piece of bread. He lived on a glass of barley water, what we will call barley kanji here in India. And that too of a specific, very, very precise, specific gravity. That is the thickness of that kanji. If the specific gravity becomes a little less or more, there ends the matter. He had a team of medical personnel whose whole job was, and they were paid very well indeed. And these men, all that they had to do is to determine the specific gravity of the glass, a glass of barley water that their boss was allowed by the doctor to take in the morning and in the evening, twice a day. Now all that wealth therefore became a burden, a source of misery. He could never enjoy. So the so-called good things in life, my dear, never mistake this. We live in a world of dichotomy, duality everywhere. So the so-called good things, good qualities, virtues, actions, possessions, all these can also do the very opposite. So, and this happens because, this is an example from Henry Ford, is just an example. He also did a lot of good. He founded what is called Ford Foundation, which has done immense good to the entire humanity, not merely Americans. So, all his good deed will certainly lead him to something very good in the future. But now he had to pay for a price. Though he earned so much of money and he had such tremendous wealth, he couldn't have bhoga. He was deprived of all the benefits thereof. So, abhoganiyam, a thing that he couldn't enjoy, he couldn't benefit from. So see, any sampatti, unless properly utilized and unless developed also in the proper mind, it becomes a vipatti. So these 5 qualities of, virtuous conduct that I have mentioned, competence, straightforwardness, honesty, very friendly speech, the soft-spoken person, or being very, meek and soft. All these are very good qualities, but they can be abused. They can be misused. Now you do a dana, for instance, a very charitable person, and then you give the dana with a big show, with a lot of advertisement here, there, everywhere, and then with the sole purpose that you must be very well-known person, renowned person, or you want to become an MP or some such. So people should know you are a very charitable person and all that. That is to say, having an ulterior motive behind your action, your metta action. Dana is a metta action. Now, with this ulterior motive, if you give, well, that ceases to be a metta sampatti. It becomes metta vipatti. Because you get the result in the form of name and fame here, and everything gets exhausted here. When you have to go, you carry nothing with yourself. It doesn't create a destiny for you in the future. It's all exhausted here with you. So the so-called, the people who do a lot of good and they want a lot of publicity and name and fame and all that, they are really to be pitied. How they miss such a wonderful thing just by the stupidity of wanting to have the result here and lose everything in the future, and your destiny gets nothing out of it. So we have to be careful, my dear. When we are practicing metta in the form of Shila, all these virtues, the 5 virtues I have already mentioned. Today I will mention 5 more. Anatimani, which simply means inoffensiveness. Atimana is presumptuousness, where you are offensive, tough, and all that sort of arrogant. So, metta, where your whole philosophy of life is to promote the well-being and happiness of all. So by being tough, by being arrogant, and putting on this posture of being very tough and a strong man and what not, well, you lose everything here. It becomes a vipatti. So, to practice metta, it has to be inoffensive. Not a combative posture, not a militant approach, but a friendly, an approach of goodwill. So anatimani, very inoffensiveness. Inoffensiveness is the very heart of Buddhism. Lord Buddha was the very image of inoffensiveness. People abused him. Here is a great Chakravarti Maharaja. He would have become a Chakravarti Maharaja. Now he goes out and somebody calls him a name. He says, oh, here goes a bull. Here goes a dog. Here goes this. Now he is going on his Pindapata, the alms round, and a woman who had actually tried to, get at him because he was very beautiful. And she didn't get. And instead Buddha said, look here, why are you trying to run after this body? This body is nothing but asubha, filled with all kinds of impurities. The first thing you do in the morning is wash your mouth. The mouth that you care so much, and you talk so much with it, eat so much with it, that mouth becomes foul. So inside, it's a horrible factory of impurity. Once you know that, so this kind of delusion of beauty and what not disappears. So the Buddha wanted that she should have at least a very sane view of life. So Magandiya mistook, and so she created this. When Buddha was going out in Kosambi for Pindapata, she set a whole gang of rowdies saying, go and abuse him. Tell him that he is an elephant and a dog and a rat and a cat, all kinds of names. And they did this just for money. Buddha said nothing, just quietly. Venerable Ananda got very upset. He said, Bhagavan, let's go away from here, please. So Bhagavan said, where will you go, my dear? He says, to some other place. He said, if people also do the same thing there, they call you a dog, a donkey, what will you do? We'll go somewhere else. What is there? So he says, no, that is not the way a spiritual person acts. Face the music, face the trouble, face all the difficulties and overcome them. Not run away from them. Don't try to escape. The more you try to escape from reality, from difficulties, from anything, the more you invite similar situations. Therefore, this is not the way. In 7 days, this will all end. And it happened. So Magandia got later on very terribly, she had to pay a very heavy price for it. So now, inoffensiveness is a very great sampatti, a great asset, spiritual asset. It is a very meritorious act which bears fruit here and now. It enriches life in a way that one cannot even dream of. It empowers the mind in a way that one can never think. So, metta as a tool, that is inoffensiveness as a tool of metta, you see, is a very powerful one, and one should practice that. Instead of being tough and arrogant and combative and all that sort of thing, it's good to be gentle, good to be inoffensive, good to be patient. So if we do develop this is the path, the Noble Eightfold Path leading to Nibbana. You fulfill Sila in this way, and that leads to fulfillment of Samadhi, because you purify your mind when you purify your Sila. When you purify your action, you purify your mind. And when you purify both, you purify your wisdom. That means the knowledge faculty, intelligence faculty also gets thoroughly cleansed up into wisdom. So, the inoffensiveness is very wonderful indeed as a tool of metta. But it has to be practiced as a sampatti, not vipatti. Now, one thing I would like also to mention, that what is it that makes a sampatti into a vipatti? It is called vanchaka dhamma or vanchaka chit. Something with an ulterior motive. You put on a very good garb, but to hide something that is ugly. You see, greed is ugly. And out of greed you want to get this, you want to get that good name and fame, or you see, a good future, or being born in the heaven, and go to the heaven of your chosen God. What is behind all this? Greed, plain greed. Wanting to continue worldly existence, that's all. So now, if this ugliness of greed is hidden by the very beautiful garb of dana, well, that is why the sampatti becomes a vipatti. Similarly, the other aspect of this anatimani is, you can be really inoffensive, unassuming, not egoistic, and therefore gentle and meek, submissive, only when you are really contented with what you have got. So contentment or santushti, it goes together with this. So 5 things go together. Anatimani, being very unassuming, or being inoffensive. Santo, you see, anatimani, santussako, being santo, all the time contented with what you have, not wanting this, wanting that, all the time being very discontented, no. Subharocha, being very easy to support. Now these are qualities which go with the anatimani, inoffensive life. Appakicho, and then a man who is not over busy. A person who says, oh, I am very busy, I have got to go there, I have got to do this, I have got to do that. That's a very, very pitiable human being. If you are a mindful person, there is no need to be over busy at all. So stick to a few things and do the few things well, and not invite trouble by being involved with everything. By, for instance, you become a member of every committee that you can think of in the country. So you belong to nobody because you are everywhere. That kind of life is the very opposite of metta. Over busy, overactive, no. And then Sallahuka Bhuti means very simple, choice for simplicity of life. Now these are virtues which are indeed very wonderful, very sublime virtues. Being inoffensive, being contented, being easy to support, and being, you see, a choice for few things, few activity, not overactive, over busy, no. And simple way of living, simplicity. These 5 qualities are again wonderful tools for metta. But they have to be practiced with the right motivation. If they are practiced because they are very highly respected, people regard you because of this. If you are a contented man, certainly people will be, you see, they will respect you. Or if you are unassuming, people will respect you. If you are a very simple, happy, contented person, people will respect you. But if to get this respect and all that, you assume these rules, well, I am afraid they are vanchakachitta. The self-deceptive mind takes over and everything is, the sampatti becomes a vipatti. So self-deception is a very, very real factor. Some people call it Maya, delusion or illusion. But whatever name they may give, it makes no difference whatsoever. It's a mental state whereby you cheat yourself straight and outright. That is what happens. Self-deception is cheating oneself. And when you begin to cheat yourself, you cheat the whole world. So the best thing to do is not to cheat oneself and not to cheat the world. And that is the path of metta. That is the fulfillment of the philosophy of metta. So today we will have it. Up to this we have already discussed 10 such virtuous conduct that becomes the tool for metta with the philosophy of sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. With this I conclude. May the grace of Lord Buddha surround your lives with wisdom and well-being. May you all be endowed with abundant metta. May you all be happy. Sukhino bhavantu.